Yeah, so the Philadelphia Flyers totally destroyed Montreal yesterday. We made a video in the morning of yesterday's programming saying, hey, John Tortorella got fired, Brad Shaw is the interim head coach, and because of that, who knows what the Canadiens are going to be able to do against Philadelphia. Well, it turns out that the Tortorella effect, the Tortorella after effect, I guess you could say, was much bigger than we thought, because the Flyers absolutely destroyed the Montreal Canadiens. Matvei Michkov, on the cusp of getting a hat trick, ended up missing the empty net and hitting the post, but he still had 2 goals and an assist, as the Canadiens lost 6-4. Yeah, the Habs scored 4. There were still a bunch of guys going out there and getting points, like Lane Hutson, who actually did achieve something that hasn't been done in, 40 years? Yeah, he had multiple assists yesterday. It was really, really good, but we're going to make another video about that later on. However, one of the interesting stories about yesterday's Philly and Montreal game, aside from the fact that Philadelphia totally won, despite losing out on their head coach earlier in the morning, is the fact that defenseman Cam York was dressed for the game. He was on the bench, but he ended up not playing a single second. 0 minutes and 0 seconds time on ice in the game. And if you head over to Cam York and his game log, you would note that this isn't the first time this has happened this season. York, of course, is a former top prospect from the Philadelphia organization. He was taken in the top round of the 2019 NHL Draft. He was a part of that super good squad with Trevor Zegras, Alex Turcotte, Cole Caulfield, Jack Hughes, Spencer Knight, etc. York, not only did he not play any minutes against the Montreal Canadiens, but 3 days ago against the Maple Leafs, York only played 3 minutes and 50 seconds there in their 7-2 loss. The same loss which prompted the comments made from Tortorella, wherein he pretty much said that he wasn't interested coaching this version of the team, and that he had given up pretty much. Well, what happened here? Cam York has always been a guy that I think a lot of folks saw good potential in. Last year, he had 30 points in 82 games played. He was slowly starting to get up there in terms of his NHL productivity. It took him a lot longer than some of the other NTDP teammates he had had. Of course, Hughes is a monster right now. Cole Caulfield is awesome. Zegras had his moments, and Turcotte is slowly breaking in after all the injuries he had had. But Cam York was always the best defenseman on that NTDP team, and folks would go out there and question what's going on with this guy, that he's getting benched for literally 60 minutes worth of game time. Well, firstly, we gotta acknowledge why they didn't just scratch him outright. They didn't scratch him, they didn't call somebody up. Well, unfortunately, the Flyers couldn't do that. This comment by Boyle JC2 says, considering York was essentially suspended for the Montreal game, that makes sense. We are out of call-ups and only had 18 healthy skaters, so he had to be in the lineup, but he didn't play last night. I hope whatever happened can be fixed with Danny and the next coach, because York has some great underlying numbers that could pop under a new coach. And that is indeed the case here with Philadelphia. Out of call-ups, they only have 18 healthy guys. So if you scratch York and you're not able to call somebody else up, you're already playing shorthanded. What more if somebody gets injured and you're only able to run 4 defensemen for an entire game? That is unfair to the players. So keep York on the bench. Don't play him because you know that he's going through this disciplinary phase right now. And if somebody gets hurt, then you have the opportunity to play a guy and not have the rest of your D-core depleted of their energy and their resources. So ultimately it makes sense as to why they didn't just straight up scratch Cam York. But now we need to get into what happened, because this is the entire reason we're making this video here. Kevin Kurse went out there and said this morning, I was told from a team source that it's fair to say something happened between Cam York and John Tortorella in Toronto that contributed to the coach's dismissal on Thursday morning. It was put to me that they both probably crossed the line. So, In the Toronto game, wherein York only played 3 minutes and 50 seconds, it seems like something might have happened with him and John Tortorella that ultimately led to Tortorella getting fired yesterday. They probably both crossed the line, the source said. So, Torts crossed the line, so did York. Doesn't look like something good happened. Further to Kevin Kersh's report, Sarah Bailey says, sources clarified there was no physical altercation between Cam York and John Tortorella, but a heated verbal exchange that led to York's discipline last night. The Flyers couldn't scratch York because the NHL rules don't allow teams to voluntarily play short. So, something did happen, and some stuff was said. A heated verbal exchange that firstly led to John Tortorella getting fired, but secondly led to Cam York getting disciplined last night. There was already probably something going on after his 3 minutes and 50 seconds worth of playing time against Toronto, but for the new coaching staff to come in here and say, hey, look, you gotta sit for what happened against Toronto, you gotta sit for that situation that happened between you and Torts. So we're gonna play the Montreal Canadiens. We're gonna get this coaching bump. Travis Sanheim is gonna play 30 minutes. Jamie Drysdale and Nick Seeler are gonna get 20 plus. And you're gonna get 0. Cam York. My goodness, thank the heavens that Travis Sanheim is able to hold the fort down for 30 plus minutes. Igor Zamula and Emil Andre each had under 18, which you would kind of deem odd when you consider that one full defenseman is not going to play any minutes in the entire game. Ultimately, though, this is a pretty embarrassing situation for a player who is young and who does want to be able to carve out an NHL future for himself to the same capacity that his teammates of the NTDP 6 years ago were able to. But ultimately, this is a hiccup in the road. Whether or not this signals the end of Cam York and his time in Philadelphia, that remains to be seen. I don't necessarily think it does. I don't think it's guaranteed. For Torts, I feel like there was already sort of an idea floating around that he could get the can because of the comments he had made. For Cam York, it's more of a, okay, you crossed the line there, York. You gotta sit out for a game. But I would assume that because he did that, now it's all over and done with, and he can continue playing on and trying to improve his hockey playing career. I don't know if the Philadelphia Flyers are going to decide to trade this guy or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying they chose York over Tortorella. That's kind of a different narrative, and I think that implies different standards and motivations, but I ultimately do think that the Flyers just thought it was time to move on from Tortorella, especially after the comments that he had, not towards York, but to the media. But I guess we'll figure it out, right? Cam York still is a young guy that has a lot of potential. Is he Jamie Drysdale? I'd say probably not, but he is one of the many younger dudes on the Philadelphia Flyers that is looking to change the fortunes of this team into the long-term future. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Cam York and this situation, the beef between him and Torts. There was a bunch of stuff said and some discipline handed out. Let me know in the comments what do you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.